She had 30 seconds to give him a name. Her wrists were bound behind her back. The warehouse smelled like river water and cold concrete.
I told you this would happen.
The man in front of her was not the kind of man who bluffed. She knew that.
I'm not afraid of you.
She had known it from the moment the door of the SUV closed and the city disappeared behind her. And in those 30 seconds, with everything at stake and nobody in the world who knew where she was, Selene Marsh looked Derek Cole in the eye and said nothing. Not because she was fearless. She was afraid. She was more afraid than she had ever been in her life.
Who did this?
But she had spent 2 years making herself invisible.
He'll kill me.
And in those 2 years, she had learned one thing with absolute certainty. The only thing more dangerous than being seen by the wrong person is being broken by them. So she said nothing. And 31 seconds later, the door of that warehouse exploded inward, and the most dangerous man in Manhattan walked through it. But that is not where this story starts. This story starts on a Tuesday night in October, in an empty office corridor, with a glass wall and a woman on the phone, and a man who had not felt anything in 7 years pressing his ear to the silence and listening. This is the story of Selene Marsh. And if you have ever made yourself smaller to survive a room that was too loud, if you have ever been so invisible that you started to wonder if you existed at all,
I have your prescription.
then I need you to stay with me until the very
I don't know
end.
if I can do this.
Because this story is for you.
Just breathe.
Selene woke
You're
every
stronger
morning
than
at
you think.
6:15. She made coffee
love
in
that.
a
It's
one-bedroom
perfect.
apartment in Washington
And
Heights,
then what?
with a view of a
The
brick
next
wall
day was
and a
just as
radiator
lovely.
that had opinions. She took the A train to Park Avenue. She arrived at her desk on the 28th floor of Ashford Capitol at 7:52. 8 minutes before the good coffee in the break room was gone, because she had long since stopped pretending that life would deliver good things to people who did not plan ahead. She was a records coordinator. She cross-referenced vendor payment data, maintained filing systems,
No. These aren't right.
flagged inconsistencies for review.
Where are my notes?
She was exceptional at it. She was also invisible at it, and she had made herself
I
that
knew
way
I
on
left you here
purpose.
somewhere.
18 months before, her husband Marcus had taken their joint savings account, legally, technically, without any mechanism to stop him, and left a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this." 3 years. 1 sentence. She stood in that kitchen for a long time. Then she washed her coffee cup, put on her coat, and went to work.
I've checked the records, and there's no
And she
mention
had
of
been
that
going to
transaction.
work ever
Are
since.
you certain?
Nobody
Quite.
at Ashford Capitol
It
knew her
seems you might
name
be
outside of the
mistaken.
filing system. Nobody asked her to lunch. Nobody copied her on the emails that mattered. When she was introduced in meetings, it was as records, I think, which is not a name. It is a filing cabinet with shoes. She had decided that invisibility was armor, that if you asked for nothing, nothing could be taken, that if you wanted nothing, nothing could hurt you. She kept a worn copy of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius in her desk
I
drawer
want the name of who
and read
slashed
it
my
at
tires.
lunch, alone,
Now.
at a corner table in a sandwich shop on
Don't make
Lexington
me
Avenue.
ask again.
The line she came back to most was this one. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way
You don't
becomes the
understand.
way.
I can't leave yet. I saw something.
She was
You have
not
to
sure
believe
she
me.
believed it yet, but she kept the book.
They're still
Every
here.
evening on her way home, she stopped at the pharmacy on 181st Street and picked up a prescription for Dr. Paula Vance, her neighbor,
I
71
understand,
years
but
old,
I can't meet the deductible
retired
right
internist, bad
now.
arthritis,
Can we discuss a more manageable
2 flights
payment
of
schedule?
stairs she could not always
Hello?
manage.
I understand.
Selene
Good
brought
night.
the medication up. Sometimes she stayed for tea. Paula talked about
I need
mystery
some
novels
sleep.
and had
I
strong
need the
opinions
records
about
coordinator
everything,
and protection rotation
and was the
roster
only
now.
person in Selene's life
Yes, boss.
who talked to her
And seal
like she
all
was
exit
worth
routes.
talking to.
I wanna
Selene
know
never
why this
told
routing
anyone at the
discrepancy
office
exists.
about
Explain
Paula.
yourself.
She never told them much of anything.
Standard parameters.
There is no
She
discrepancy.
showed up, she did her work, she disappeared. This was enough, she had decided. This was safe. Here
I
is
think you
what
need to see
Selene
this.
did not know. She did not know that the building she worked in was owned,
sure it's reliable?
ultimately, and through 3 layers of corporate structure
You see this?
by a man named Roman Ashford.
It's all there.
And that Roman Ashford
Every
was not
move he
primarily a real estate investor. She did not know that
3
the
shell
firm she
companies.
processed invoices for had
9 months of hidden
nested
transactions.
inside its legitimate payment
The
infrastructure
reconstructed evidence is
a
organized
mechanism
by
for
date,
moving money that
vendor
had
code,
nothing to
and
do
logic.
with real estate
This
or
clearly
investment.
identifies the anomalies in the system.
She did not know that a man
think I
named
didn't see
Derek
it?
Cole had been using
The
that
ledger,
mechanism
the
for
transfers,
9 months.
I can explain.
And she absolutely
There's nothing
did
to
not
explain.
know
It's
that a
done.
coworker she had trusted for 8 months had been assigned to watch her specifically, to see what she noticed, to manage what she found.
I can offer you a safe.
She did not know any of this. On the Wednesday
41st
morning, she
floor
opened a
is
batch
secure.
of vendor payment records and saw a
No.
routing number that
I
appeared
have to
twice,
do this myself.
attached
The
to 2 different
obligation
vendor
falls on
names,
me, even if it feels
formatted
dangerous.
differently, different invoice dates, but routing to the same destination. It took her 4 seconds. 4. She had always noticed things other people walked past. It was not a skill she had cultivated deliberately. It was just the way her brain worked. Pattern recognition, built from years of doing careful work in a corner where no one was watching. She flagged it internally. She sent a note to Jason Briggs in finance. He responded in 12 minutes. Probably a duplicate from the system migration, he wrote. I'll check it. Don't worry about it. 3 words
I'm so
at
glad
the
to
end.
hear from you.
Don't worry about it.
Everything is good, just the
She
usual
filed the
day.
flag and moved
How
on.
are you?
She told herself it was nothing. She
is
almost
she?
believed it. The next
need to know
day, she
she's
came
all
back
right.
from lunch to find her desk reorganized.
She's been through so much.
Not messily, carefully.
Alone in that apartment.
The way you search a space when you need to find something
no
specific,
idea.
and you cannot
I
afford
think
to
you'll
leave
find
signs.
this arrangement
Her
mutually
notepad,
beneficial.
the one where she had written the routing numbers by
That's
hand,
what I like to hear.
was gone. Not
He
misplaced.
was more than a brother.
Removed.
He was everything.
She sat down.
And now
She opened her desk drawer.
he's gone.
She found her copy
I
of
understand
Meditations.
completely.
She read one line.
Take
Never
your
let
time,
the
there's
future
no
disturb
rush.
you. And then she closed the book and opened the
needed to be
document
honest with
management
you.
system and
The
reconstructed
guilt
from
has been
memory,
consuming me.
calmly, precisely, everything she had seen. She saved it to a private folder. Then she saved it to a thumb drive she put in her coat pocket. Because she had learned in 18 months of rebuilding herself from nothing that the only thing more dangerous than having information
I
is
understand
losing
your
it
concerns,
before you
but
know what
trust
it
me,
means.
this is the right direction.
That afternoon,
I'm
Jason
not sure.
found her in the
This
break
changes
room.
everything, doesn't it?
His voice was warm, easy, the same voice she had trusted for 8 months.
You say.
The
you
voice
say.
that
You
remembered
were
her
watching me the
coffee
whole
order
time.
and laughed at her quiet
Tell me
jokes
what you did to us.
and made her feel
I have my
just
reasons.
barely like she was not completely alone in this building.
I'm sorry.
He said the same thing
I
he had said in
demand
the
to be
email.
asked.
Nothing there.
I won't be managed.
System glitch. Close it out?
I trust
She looked
you,
at him.
but I'm afraid.
Something in the back of her sternum went absolutely still. Sure, she said. Already done. She watched his hands. She thought, you are lying. She said nothing.
What is this?
She went back to her
I know
desk
what you
and sat
did.
quietly
You can't
and
deny
thought
it
about
now.
what she knew and
You
what
shouldn't
she
have
did
done that.
not, and what the space between those two things might
I
cost
believe
her.
you'll find that I did
The same
exactly what was
afternoon,
necessary.
a man she had never seen
Package is
before
moving.
spent
Cut the feed
40
to Sector
minutes in the
4,
lobby of
reroute
the
via
building,
West Tunnel. Move now.
reading a newspaper
Status
the way you
updated.
read a
Done.
newspaper
Fall back.
when you are not reading a newspaper.
The city reacts.
Head up just slightly too much. Gaze moving at intervals that were too
It's time.
regular to be accidental. She noticed. She said
I
nothing.
hate these places.
On Monday, both rear tires of her
get in the
12-year-old
car.
Toyota were flat in the parking
Don't
structure.
scream! Get in! No!
Not a slow
help,
leak.
Please, no! Move
Not
her.
road debris.
Hurry. Just get in! No!
Cut.
Shut the door!
She stood in the yellow fluorescent light of the sublevel and felt the specific cold, focused fear of a woman who has learned that the world is not structured to protect her. She called a car service. She rode to work in silence. She walked in through the lobby. She sat down at her desk. She opened her laptop. She began. What she did not know, what she could not have known, was that in the corner office on the 41st floor, A man who had been
You see,
watching the
outdated
security
confinement
feed
lighting
for
technique is
14
meant to
minutes
disorient, but to an expert,
had just put
it's merely
down
a
his phone
spotlight.
and said,
Please, stop.
very
No,
quietly,
I'm gonna finish.
to the man standing beside
I know
him,
everything. The
who
account
slashed
numbers,
her
the offshore
tires.
transfers, the deal you
And
made
it
with
was
the
not a
cartel. It's all in
question.
here.
No, that's not possible.
Roman
I covered
Ashford
everything.
had been
You're
away
lying.
for
You're
11
lying.
days.
I have lost my patience.
He had returned on a
And now the
Tuesday with
consequences
the particular
will be severe.
efficiency of a man who had spent so long being the most
Please.
important person in every room he entered that he had stopped thinking about it. He was 44, dark eyes, silver at his temples, the kind of stillness that some rooms read as menace and other rooms read as authority.
Keep your hands
Both
on
readings were accurate. He had built an empire in this city across 2
Please
decades.
don't let them take me.
The kind of empire that had a
I'm
public
here.
floor and several floors
gonna be
below
all right.
it that did not appear on any
Thank you.
organizational chart.
I was so scared.
He had a code, though.
I never
He
knew.
had kept it for 20 years,
I
since
know.
before the power,
Now
since
you
before
do.
the name meant what it now meant.
I
The
have
code
you.
was simple. He did not harm people who had not chosen to enter the world of harm. He did not
Thank
use
you.
innocent people
Take it
as
slow.
leverage.
I've got
He did
you.
not look away from cruelty directed at
I
those
think
who
I'm
could
okay
not
now.
defend themselves.
Thank you.
The world he operated
You
in
shouldn't be
had
here.
found this inconvenient. He had made it work anyway.
Where else would I be?
There had been a cost. There was
I tried
always
to control
a
everything,
cost.
to protect it.
He did not discuss
but all I
the
really
cost.
did was lose it.
He came back
And I
on a
don't think I'll
Tuesday,
ever forgive myself
and by
for that.
7 in the evening, he had cleared 11 days of accumulated decisions in 3 hours, which was efficient even for him. And by 9, he was alone on 41 with a file he had read twice already, and a scotch he was not drinking, and the particular texture of a problem
I believe my
that
contributions
refused
warrant
to
the senior
clarify.
director title and a
At
revised
11:14,
compensation package.
he stood
Yes,
and
I'm
walked to
confident
the side
this is the fair
panel.
and appropriate next
The
step
glass
for my role
wall
here.
that looked out onto the
Good morning,
secondary
Character B.
executive
Do you have a
corridor,
moment?
which was not supposed to have anyone in it at this hour.
Come in, character
It
A.
did. There was a woman at one of the
I believe you.
workstations,
I'll trust you
coat
on
on,
this.
Good.
back
You won't
slightly
regret it.
curved,
We can do
the
this.
posture of someone who has been holding something heavy long
For you.
enough that holding heavy things
Thank
has
you.
become the baseline.
From your admirer.
Phone to her ear, talking quietly. He did not intend
I don't
to
know
listen.
what to say.
He started to
Thank
turn back
you.
toward his desk. Then something in her voice made him stop. It was not drama. It was not the trembling urgency of someone performing distress.
And that's
It
why I
was the
think it's
opposite.
absolutely essential
It was
to do
steadiness.
it this way.
Oh, you
that had
always
work
have the
running
strongest
through it.
opinions.
The voice
Well,
of
someone
someone
has to be
carrying
right.
something real
Mr. Russo,
and
recording
carrying
as
it
requested,
without
ma'am.
audience,
Come in,
without
Enzo.
expectation of being seen. He stood at the glass. He listened.
Come in. Everything is ready.
I know the deductible is significant,
Thank
she
you.
was saying.
I appreciate you
I have
trusting
already
me.
looked at the payment schedule.
I found some discrepancies
I
in
can
the
cover
latest
the
report.
140
Could you
by
clarify
end
these
of month
points?
if you can hold
Yes,
the
those are
claim
standard.
open.
Let me explain the regulatory updates.
Yes.
I understand now.
I
Thank you.
understand.
Our
A pause.
assessment is complete. It's the right
How does
call.
she seem today?
I trust your
Is she
judgment
sleeping?
completely. Thank
Can you just tell her I called?
We have to what
She
we
does
did
not need to
them.
know about the payment
We have to
part.
face what we did together.
Just tell her I called.
And I know we can get through it if
A
you
longer
trust me.
pause. Her shoulders changed almost imperceptibly. Something releasing and something else. Something careful and private coming to the surface for just a moment.
We
Then
must
quietly.
respect each other's boundaries.
Thank you.
And so we shall.
Thank you for taking care of her. She ended the call. She sat still for 3 seconds with the phone in her lap. And in those 3 seconds, her face did the thing that faces do when no one is watching. It was tired. Genuinely, deeply tired. Not beaten. Not broken. Just tired the way people are tired when they have been carrying something alone for a long time and there is no one to set it down with. Then she straightened, put the phone away, picked up her bag. Roman stepped back from the glass before she turned. He stood in his office in the quiet. The scotch was still untouched. He picked up his phone and called Garrett, the records coordinator. Floor 28.
I'm ready to take on this new
Her name.
challenge.
Garrett gave it to him in 90 seconds. Selene Marsh, 29. 2 years with the
Thank
firm.
you.
No flags.
This means
Washington
so much to
Heights.
me.
Roman said, someone touched her car this morning in the structure.
I know you're in there.
I want the name by
We need
morning.
to talk.
And I want a protection rotation on her building starting tonight.
I knew you'd be here.
He ended the call. He told himself this was
I
operational,
wouldn't miss it for the world.
that someone had acted inside his building without his knowledge, and that was a
Thank
statement
you.
that required a
perfect.
response, and the response was not personal. He told himself this as he
I never
sat
thought
back
I'd find
down
this.
and opened the file he had already read twice.
Neither did I.
He did not pick up the scotch. He thought about a woman with her coat still on at 11 at night, paying someone else's hospital bill in an empty corridor, letting herself be tired for exactly 3 seconds when she thought no one could see. He thought about what it takes to keep going when no one is watching.
Sector 7.
He thought,
Exit
in
54.
a way that was
3-minute
unfamiliar
window.
and a little
Target
alarming,
moves northeast.
that he had spent 7 years surrounded by people and had not felt anything recognizable as human connection in all of them. And a woman he had watched through glass for 9 minutes had done more damage to that arrangement than any of those 7 years. He did not examine this thought closely. He went back to work. The next morning, he had her brought to 41. She came up with the look of someone who had been summoned and was running a rapid private assessment of whether they had done something wrong or were about to be told something worse. She sat down across from his desk and folded her hands and held his gaze with the particular
I don't know how to
steadiness
thank you.
of a person who had been practicing steadiness for a long time.
You
He
don't
said,
have to.
There is a rooting
I'm so glad we could
discrepancy
start
in the
the day
vendor
like this.
accounts. Someone in this building
Me
flagged
too.
it
It's the perfect
and
way
then
to
stopped.
begin.
I need to know what you
The
know.
latest compliance updates require some
Something
minor
moved
adjustments.
across her face.
Yes, I've reviewed the drafts and
Not
agree with
fear,
your assessment.
sharper than
Excellent.
fear.
I think we are prepared for
Recognition.
this.
She said, How do you know I know anything? He said, Because you flagged it, and then you went quiet, and I want to know why you went quiet. She looked at him
Good
for a long
morning.
moment.
Morning.
He watched her decide
Hi
something.
there.
Then she reached into her coat pocket
Excellent.
and set a
All
thumb
the
drive on
compliance
the
files
center
are now
of his
in order.
desk.
We're ready for the audit.
She said, I went quiet because someone told me to. But I did not delete anything. Roman looked at the thumb drive. He looked at her. He said, What is on this? She said, Everything I found. Everything I reconstructed from memory after my notes were taken. Every pattern that does not fit a legitimate accounting system. It is organized by date and vendor code, and it is annotated so that a person who is not an accountant can follow the logic.
Welcome.
He
Come
said,
in.
How
Thank
long
you.
did this take you?
Please
She
make
said,
yourself comfortable.
4 seconds to find the first anomaly. About 9 hours total to document the rest. He said nothing for a moment. Then he said, 4 seconds. She said, I noticed things. He opened the drive. He read for 11 minutes without speaking. She sat across from him and waited without filling the silence, which he noted was a more sophisticated skill
I
than
trust
most
you
people
implicitly.
understood it to be. When he put down the last page, he
Thank
said,
you.
This
feeling's
connects to
mutual.
3 shell companies that have been active in our payment infrastructure for 9 months. She said, I thought it might be something like that. I did not know the scale. He said, Jason Briggs told you to close the flag. She said yes. He said Briggs has been working against this firm for approximately 8 months. He is connected to a man named Derek Cole. Cole is a developer who maintains a substantial public
Good
profile
afternoon.
and a private
come in?
operation that is not legal and has been using this firm's payment structure to clean the proceeds of that operation. He has been building a case against me by implicating this firm.
The parameters are set.
He paused.
And you're sure this is the only way?
You found
Absolutely.
the mechanism in 4
Trust the
seconds.
process.
She was quiet. Then she said, And now you are telling me this because I am in a more exposed position than I was this
The
morning.
quarterly report shows 98%
He said yes.
compliance with the new protocols.
She said,
with minimal
Because whoever
deviations in the
told
southern
Briggs to
sector.
warn me off now knows the
Analyzing
warning
market
did not work.
fluctuations and investment strategies
said yes.
requires careful consideration of potential
silence in the
pitfalls
room
and
changed
growth
quality.
opportunities.
He watched her calculate. Not with
We
panic,
secured the deal.
with the focused
Everything
attention
is
of a
in place,
woman
exactly
who had
as you
learned to
wanted.
work with what was in front of her. She said, What do you suggest? He said, Stay in the building tonight. There are security arrangements on this floor that the public floors do not have. She said, I cannot stay in an office overnight. I have a neighbor who needs her prescription. He said, give me the pharmacy and I will have it delivered. She looked at him with the specific expression of a woman for whom accepting help had become synonymous with creating debt. She said, I do not take things from people I do not know. He said, you just handed me a thumb drive of documented financial evidence that could be used to dismantle an ongoing criminal operation.
I never thought
She
I'd
said,
adjust to living
that
alone,
is different.
but then I met you.
That is information.
And I'm so glad you
Information
did, my dear.
does not create
We'll always
obligation.
Have tea.
Accepting help
darling,
creates
your logic
obligation.
is like a kitten with a
He
ball
held her
of
gaze.
yarn,
He said,
tangled and utterly
what if
adorable.
I told you it does not have to?
I haven't heard that
She
one
looked
in
at him
years.
for a long moment. Something weighed.
It's an old family
Something
favorite,
decided.
just for you.
She said, Paula Vance,
Thank you
181
for
and
everything.
Cabrini, arthritis
Always
prescription.
here.
The
Drive
pharmacy
safe.
on the corner, not the chain. They know her name. He made the call in front of her, which he did not need to do. He did it so she could hear that he did it, and how, and that he meant it. She
Miss
stayed.
Jones?
There is something I need to
Are you
tell you
available?
now about what happened the next morning. Because it is the part of this story
Come on
that
in.
broke something open in the people who worked around them, if any of them had been paying
Thank you for letting
attention,
me in.
which none of them were. Roman came down
I
to the
needed you to
lobby
hear
the
this
next
directly
morning
from me,
and was
even
there
if
when
it's
Selene
difficult.
stepped out of the
This
elevator
is the
to
truth,
go back to
and I
floor
stand by
28.
it.
He said, I need you on 41 today. She said, I have a job. He said, you have a job. I am asking you to do it from a different floor, temporarily. A pause. Then he said,
I brought you some coffee.
please.
Thank you, that's sweet.
She looked at him.
Just how you like it.
Because here is what she
Perfect.
understood about that word in that voice. He said it with the weight of a man
Good morning.
who did not say it often,
Thank you, I needed
who
that.
had built a life where asking was rarely required,
You always look
who
so
had learned
beautiful
so
in the
long
morning.
ago to move first and explain
make
later
every morning
that the word
beautiful.
itself had become unfamiliar in his mouth. And she understood, in the way that careful people understand things that have not been said, that he was not asking her to
I
be
didn't
convenient.
expect to see you here.
He was asking her to be safe,
Nor
and he was using the
but I'm
word that
glad I
cost
did.
him something to use it.
The team reports look thorough.
She got in the
We're on
elevator
track.
with him. She worked on the 41st floor for a
Great
week
to hear.
before she stopped expecting it to feel temporary. He gave her a desk by the window. He did not announce it or explain it. He simply had it arranged. Morning light. A view she had not expected to have, of the city she had been inside for 2 years without ever standing above it like this. She did not thank him. He did not require thanks. On the third morning, he brought 2
Apologies
cups of
for the
coffee
delay.
to the common table
May I
near
come
the
in?
window and set them down and took one. She took the other. He did not comment on this.
I've been waiting for you.
Neither did she.
And
But
I
the
for
4th
you.
morning, he did it again. And the 5th. And by the 2nd week, it had the weight of a fact. The way small, repeated things do when neither person decides whether they are keeping them. They just keep happening because stopping would require a decision that no one wants to make.
You know
On
you
Thursday
shouldn't
of
be
that
here.
2nd week, she was on the phone
And
with
you know I
Paula
can't
when he
stay
came
away.
back from a meeting. She stayed on the call because Paula had had a difficult night and needed to talk it through. And when she hung up 20 minutes later,
I feel
he
so good
said,
about this.
without
Me
looking
too.
up from
With
his
you.
laptop, "Is she all right?" She said, "How long have you been listening?" He said, "The office is quiet. I am not trying to. Is she all right?" She said, "She will be fine. Her arthritis flares in the cold." And then after a moment, she said, "She called me and asked if I had a new friend."
We need to move quickly on this.
Paula does not get impressed
Consider
easily.
it done. I'll
He
handle
looked up.
everything.
The corner of his mouth moved. Not a full smile. The shape of a smile being remembered by a man who had stopped practicing them. He said, "What happened to her husband?" She told him. She told him about the 30 years in emergency medicine. The death 4 years ago.
Mr. Sterling,
The sun
it's
in
about the matter
Seattle.
we discussed.
The mystery novels.
I'm here to ensure it's resolved.
He listened completely.
Welcome, I've
The
been
way
waiting
he listened
for
to
you.
everything, with the specific quality of attention that meant what was being said
Hello.
was worth the full weight of his presence.
I have checked the records. This is a
Then
discrepancy.
he said something she did not
Examine the audit
expect.
logs. The numbers are correct.
He said,
But the dates don't align.
"My
There
brother
must be an-
died when I was 26.
The data
He was
supports
24.
a decisive yes.
He was
And
in the
our
wrong
partnership
place
flourishes.
because of a decision I made.
Precisely.
He would have done
The data
something
indicates
better with his
clear
life
non-compliance with the new
than I have
regulations.
done with mine."
Our decision is to
He said it
proceed with the
flatly.
mandated corrective actions
The way you say
immediately.
things that have been said inside your head so many times
This is the right
that they have
call.
worn smooth at the edges.
I trust your
She
judgment.
was quiet for a
I
moment.
appreciate that.
Then she said, "You know he was better than the version of you that existed at 26. That is not the same as better than who you are now. People make their guilt absolute because it feels more honest.
Thank you for being here.
It usually is not."
Always.
He looked at her for a long
We own
time.
this city.
He said
Together.
Marcus Aurelius. She
And
said
you
he
own
helps.
my heart.
He said mine was Epictetus. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. She said, that is the harder one. He said, yes, it is. She said, do you believe it? He was quiet for a moment. He said, I am trying to. She said, me too. They did not say anything else for a while. The city went on outside the window. The light shifted. Neither of them reached for their work. This was not nothing. This was everything. This was two people who had each spent years making themselves unavailable to exactly this kind of moment, sitting in the same room and failing to keep it from happening. And the audience watching this, the women who had been told they
I
were
couldn't
too
help
much,
but notice.
and the women who had been
Thank
told
you.
they were too little,
Come here.
and the women who had learned to manage their own longing with clinical precision. Every single one of them felt it. Because they knew what it costs to let someone in when letting people in has hurt you. They knew that the bravest thing is not the dramatic gesture. It is the small decision to stay in the room when leaving would be safer. Now I need to tell you about the worst
The
morning.
numbers don't add up.
Because every
There's a
story that
discrepancy
earns
right
its
here.
ending has to earn
Are
it
you
through
sure?
the worst
Yes,
morning
absolutely.
first.
It's a 6% variance.
Roman showed her the file on a Monday. He set it on the desk in front of her without speaking and let her read it. Jason Briggs. Monthly transfers, 9 entries, each one routed to a shell company and then to a private offshore account. 8 months
you're
of
ready for this.
transactions beginning 3 weeks before the day she
I've
had
been
flagged
waiting.
the routing discrepancy. She read it twice. Then she sat back. Her hands
Welcome.
were still
I
in
have
her lap.
everything I need right here.
She did the math she did not want to do.
For you.
The week before, she had found the anomaly.
Thank you.
Jason had taken her to lunch at a restaurant on Lexington that was slightly nicer than their floor usually managed. He had
Thank
asked her what
you.
she
I
found
really needed
interesting
this.
about her work, whether she ever noticed things that seemed off.
I've reviewed the files. The
She had
terms are
thought he was
agreeable.
being friendly. She had thought that for 8 months.
Excellent. I knew you'd see it my way.
She had thought she had a friend in this
I
building.
feel like this is the right
She
path
had
forward
thought,
for both of us.
cautiously, carefully,
I really
against
do.
all her better judgment, that she was not entirely alone.
You're beautiful.
She set the file down.
So are you.
She said, he was
So are
assigned
you.
to watch me before I found anything.
Final numbers are in.
He was already reporting on me when he offered to be my friend. Roman said yes.
We did it.
She said, he sat with me
I
at
never
that
thought I'd
lunch
find this with
and
you.
asked me exactly the right questions.
Neither
And I
did
told him
my
everything I
love.
noticed because I thought he was asking because he cared. Roman said, he knew you were the most likely person in the building to catch a pattern discrepancy. He knew you would not be believed if you reported it without support.
Mr. Hayes.
He used the specific
I apologize
combination
for the late hour.
of your intelligence and your invisibility as a targeting strategy. She was quiet. She thought about 8 months of coffee orders
I've
remembered,
analyzed the compliance
8
reports, and
months
the
of
data
small
suggests a new
jokes
approach.
at the break room
I see.
table,
And where do you think the
8
core issue
months
lies?
of the specific
The
warmth of
inefficiencies
thinking
seem to be
you had found one person in the world who saw you. And then she thought about what it cost her to trust that, and what it was going to cost her to not trust anything for a while after this. And she did not cry because she had promised herself after Marcus
I made
that
this
she would
for
not
you.
spend her tears
Thank
on people
you.
who had decided
looks
in
perfect.
advance to use her. She held the promise. She said, what
Oh,
happens to
thank
him?
you.
Roman told her.
That is
She
exactly
nodded.
what I needed.
She said, and Cole. Roman said,
The numbers
Cole
align
is the
perfectly.
longer problem.
This confirms our
He said that
strategy
Cole
is
now
working.
knew the documentation was in Roman's possession and that it had
I
come
think we
from
should
her.
refocus resources on
He
the new
said Cole was
development.
going to try to
I
use
agree
her as
completely.
leverage.
It's time to move forward with the plan.
He said he needed her
Excellent,
to take
then it's
certain
settled.
precautions. He began listing them. She said his name. She said, "Ask me." He stopped.
I
She
trust
held
you.
his gaze.
We can absolutely
She
handle
said,
this.
"You said you would ask, not decide,
We both know this can't last.
so ask me." Something
Maybe
in
it
his
can.
expression shifted.
Just a little longer.
Something below the managed surface that was not usually visible. He said, "Will you let me keep you safe?" A pause. "Please."
We need to move the assets
That word
tonight.
again, she
The
said,
feds
"Yes."
are closing in.
But I need you to
Understood.
tell me
I'll
everything.
make the call.
Not a curated version of everything.
I've never met anyone
Everything.
who understands me
He
quite
said
like
everything.
you do.
He meant it.
I feel the same.
The trap came 2 days later. A text from an unknown number at 8:47 in the evening. "Come to the freight entrance on the Riverside lot. I have the original documentation. The kind that proves your participation. Come alone or it goes to the SEC by morning." She read it once. She walked directly to Roman's office. She handed him the phone. She said, "It is fabricated." He said, "I know." She said, "What do you need me to do?" He looked at her. Then he picked up his phone and said 4 words to Garrett. "We move
I
tonight."
believe the future of our compliance hinges on the initiative
there
we
when he
launch
made the
next
call.
quarter. I'm excited
heard
about
the
what we can
precision of
achieve
it.
together.
She understood, standing
to
in
move
that
now,
office with the
before it's too
Manhattan
late.
skyline arranged
You're
behind
right.
him, that
Are you
she was
in?
inside a world with
Every
different
step of the way.
physics than the world she had come from. A world where threats were answered in kind, where the mechanisms were real, where the man standing in front of her was not performing authority, but operating it, quietly, completely, without doubt.
I'll see you tomorrow.
And she felt, standing there, something
night.
she had not allowed herself to feel in 18 months. She felt that someone was between her and the thing coming for her. Not because she had asked, not because she had performed enough vulnerability to
You
earn it,
understand?
but because he had decided she was worth protecting.
I
And
do.
for the first time in a very long time, that decision felt like it was about her and not about what she could give in return. She should have gone straight home after the call. She had said she would. She had gotten her bag, said goodnight to the security rotation, taken the elevator. But she needed to go to her car. There was a book she had left in the back seat, Paula's copy, borrowed 3 weeks ago, and she had been meaning to return it for days, and she thought, "It is 2 minutes," I told security. "It will take 2 minutes." The parking structure was quiet at that hour. She heard footsteps on the level above and told herself it was nothing. It was not nothing. 3 men. 40 seconds. A black SUV and then the city gone. She was in the back of the car before she could fully
look
process what
beautiful
was
tonight.
happening. And then she was afraid,
Beautiful tonight.
genuinely
Oh,
and
you
completely
too.
afraid. And she used the fear the way she used everything that threatened to undo her.
I love you.
She cataloged
I love you too.
direction of travel, elapsed time. The smell of the interior, salt water and cold metal, waterfront, west side, she thought. The voices, 2 of them, neither trained at a high level, accents that placed them in the outer boroughs. Time elapsed when they stopped. 22 minutes. She filed every piece of information. She thought, "I will need this later. I will need to tell someone precisely what I noticed." She thought, "He is going to need the specifics." They put her in a chair. Zip ties on her wrists. A lamp positioned behind her at the wrong angle. A technique she recognized from a psychology course she had taken years ago, designed to create the feeling of confinement through light and spatial suggestion. It was, she thought, somewhat dated.
Thank you very
Derek
much.
Cole came in at
You're
11:23,
welcome.
polished, comfortable. The kind of man who had spent
brought
so
your
long
medicine.
being perceived as legitimate
Oh,
that
you're
the
here.
performance had
Thank
merged
you.
with the reality. Expensive watch, easy posture.
Here's a hot cup for you,
He
dear.
sat down and
Thank you
crossed his
so
legs
much.
and
It
said
looks
pleasantly,
Always a pleasure.
"You have caused a significant
No, that can't be
inconvenience
right.
for a records coordinator."
Wait, this is the same number. It's duplicated.
She said, "I
It's
did my
duplicated.
job." He said
They're
he
all
needed one
duplicated.
thing from her. The location of the backup documentation, a statement she would sign. He said she would go home.
You have
He
nothing
said she
to
had
worry
his
about.
word.
I don't believe
She looked
you.
at him.
No, trust me,
She
it's
said,
handled.
"Your word." He
You keep
said,
saying
"My
that.
word." She said, "You slashed my car tires. You assigned a person to befriend me specifically so that you could monitor what I
They're
noticed.
gone.
You had me brought here in a vehicle by men I had never met."
Wait, under here.
She paused.
I found
"Your
them.
word is not a currency
The ledger
I
doesn't
am
match the
accepting."
transfer dates. The dates, yes, the 3rd
Cole
of
leaned
March.
forward.
I knew something was missing.
He said,
the funds were
"I
siphoned
am
before
offering
the
you a
quarterly
very
report.
straightforward way out of a situation that will become significantly worse if you make it harder than it has to be." She looked at the lamp
I'm here
behind
now,
his shoulder.
waiting. It's
She said,
empty.
"You positioned that lamp to create a
Just
feeling
tell
of
me where to
confinement.
meet you. I can't wait anymore.
It is meant to make the room feel smaller
I
than
saw
it
you.
is, and to direct my attention
Yes, I know.
inward rather than outward."
You're just a witness.
She looked at it for a moment. She
I
said,
understand.
"It is a little dated." Cole's pleasant expression
night.
went flat. He said,
I want a full
"I am
protection
running out of
rotation on
patience."
ID-01 immediately.
She looked at him.
No exceptions.
She said,
Move, now.
"I am not going to tell you
I
anything,
understand the offer, but
Not
I'm
because
afraid
I am
that simply
especially
won't be
brave.
enough.
though I am working
I
on that.
believe we can make a deal that satisfies
But because
us
what
both.
you are looking for does
You
not
wanted this.
exist. Roman encrypted everything the night your first message came in.
Consider it delivered.
4 servers,
They're hiding
2
it
of
in
which
plain
are
sight.
outside this country. What you brought
The
me
Shell
here to
Corporation.
retrieve cannot be retrieved. She held his gaze. You brought me here to create leverage. You do not have any. Cole stood up. What he said next was not polite. What happened 31 seconds after that was the door of
I
the
understand
warehouse
the weight
coming
of it,
off its
the
hinges.
guilt.
Roman Ashford
We
walked
decide
through
what
it at a
remains in our
pace that was
control
not
now.
hurried, because men
I
who
never
are
told
certain of
anyone this.
outcomes do not need to hurry.
Losing him? It
Behind
changed
him were
everything.
Garrett and 2 others,
I can't
from the
forget him.
specific silent
transfer is
efficiency of
complete.
people who had done this before
Excellent.
and
Our
intended
business
to
is
do it
concluded.
completely. The room rearranged itself the way rooms always rearranged themselves around Roman. Not because he demanded it, because the air understood what he was.
I'm begging you.
He crossed to Selene.
Give me permission
He crouched in
to
front of
protect
her.
her.
He took her face in both hands. He looked at her the way you look at something you cannot afford to have
Unknown
lost.
freight entrance?
Completely, with none of the
What is
management
this?
or the distance or the controlled
Targets
surface in
confirmed.
place.
Move into position.
Just the look itself.
I want a clean extraction.
Unguarded
No
and
collateral.
real. He said,
No, please.
"Are
get
you
off me.
hurt?" She said,
Get in the
"No."
car. Help.
She said, 22 minutes from the building, west side waterfront,
North on
probably
Main,
below
right on
34th
Elm.
Street based on the smell.
Over the bridge.
2 men with the
Second
vehicle,
left past the
neither
factory.
high level.
You know where the truth
Cole
is hidden.
came in without
Where
senior
is the
backup,
drive?
which means he
told
is
you I don't
operating
have it.
outside his
That's
usual
not the answer I
structure
want.
tonight,
Let's try again.
which means his organization does not know he moved on this, which means he is
I
isolated.
told you. I don't have it.
She paused. I counted the
I'm
minutes
here.
because I thought you would need the
Where is he?
specifics.
He's further inside.
Roman held her face
under
in
the
his
main
hands.
support.
He
Get
was
down
very
now.
still.
Don't
He
look
said,
away from me.
I always need your specifics.
What's out there? It's coming
He
for
cut
us.
the zip ties.
Move.
She stood.
The analysis confirms
He kept
the
one
optimal
hand at the small of her
22-minute
back
route
as she
to the
found her footing.
waterfront.
The
We
first
need to
time he
move
had
now.
touched her in any way that
I
was
never
not
told you this
procedural,
before,
and she
but
did
that
not
night,
move away,
I was
which was
standing
her
right
own
here,
first gesture.
wishing for a
Small
different
and
life.
deliberate and exactly as
I always had to be in
significant as it
charge.
felt.
Losing them, that was my fault.
Cole was already
I
in
see it
federal
now.
custody.
All the times I
The
held
arrest
onto control, it
warrant
just
had
pushed
been
them
ready
away.
for 3 weeks. The documentation Selene had found 6
I've
weeks
analyzed
ago,
the reports.
reconstructed from
The
memory
financial
on a thumb
compliance is on
drive,
track.
cross-referenced and annotated so that a person who was not an accountant could follow the logic, had been the final piece of a case that had been building for 6 months. 3 shell
Good morning.
companies,
Please come in.
9
Thank
months
you.
of
Good morning.
transactions, a city official, 2 attorneys. Jason Briggs turning state's evidence in exchange for reduced charges, handing over enough to put Derek Cole away for a long time. It was over in a night. Everything that had taken 9 months to build, dismantled between sunset and 2 in the morning by a routing number that one woman noticed in 4 seconds. Selene stood outside the warehouse in the cold. Roman stood beside her. He had given her his coat without being asked. The Hudson was dark and wide, and the lights of New Jersey floated on the surface of it. He looked at the water. She looked at the water. He said, "You counted the minutes."
I never knew
She said,
compliance
"It
could
seemed
be this
useful."
interesting.
He said, "You are the most
great
capable
coffee.
person in my organization. You have been in an uncredited
compliance audit
position
is
for 2
complete,
years,
and all
doing
departments are
exceptional
now
work
fully
for a
aligned with the
fraction
new
of what you should be
regulations.
earning. And I need to say that
The
out
analysis
loud
confirms full
because I should have
compliance
said
with
it
the
a
new
long time
regulations.
ago.
We
and
have
it took this
successfully
for me to do
implemented
it.
all necessary protocols.
She said, "That is an
Our
indictment
approach
of you
utilizes
and a
advanced
compliment
data
to me,
analytics,
and you are allowed
ensuring
both of
maximum
them."
efficiency and minimal risk.
He turned to look at her.
Outstanding.
She looked
I
back.
knew you'd understand.
He said, "You told me we would talk when it was over."
I always
She
do.
said, "It is over." She said,
Well, I've
"I am
always
not
thought that you
easy
can't
to be
too
close
careful,
to.
especially these days.
I have been told that I
and
hold
anyone
too
who
much
says otherwise
inside,
is just naive, frankly.
that I do not
You have a
ask
point.
for enough,
I could read this
that I
book
make it hard to love
forever.
me."
Yes,
She said
it's
it the way
truly
she
wonderful,
said
isn't
everything
it?
difficult, clearly, without softening it into something easier
Good
to
morning,
receive.
Mr. Hayes. I'm excited
She
to
said,
be here.
I
Good
was
morning,
told
Miss
that by a
Johnson.
man who
Welcome.
wanted me
Please
to be
come in.
smaller, and I believed it for longer than I should have. I am telling you now so that you know. He said, I have been
understand the
told
offer.
that I am too
However,
controlled,
given my expertise and
that
the
I
scope
run
of
everything,
responsibilities,
including the
I believe
people
a
I care
compensation of
about, like an operational
110,000.
problem. I was told that by someone who was right, and I did not change, and she left. 7 years ago. He paused. I am not telling you this as a warning. I am telling you because you were honest, and honesty is the thing I have the most respect for.
Open up.
She
figured
looked
it
at the
was you.
river. She said,
Didn't take long, did it?
Epictetus, take the rest as
Come
it
in,
happens.
I was hoping to see you.
He said, if you
Thank
are
I
willing.
appreciate it.
She turned to look at him. She said, I
I
am
think
willing.
we can move forward.
He reached over and took her hand. Not
I
dramatically,
believe we can.
not as a declaration. Just his
Good
hand
morning.
covering hers
Ready
in the
for a
cold,
new start.
deliberate and warm. The gesture of a man who has decided something and
I
is,
brought you
for
some
once,
coffee.
allowing the decision
Thank
to be
you.
visible.
You always know
They stood at
exactly
the
what
edge
I
of the
need.
water and said nothing else. There was nothing else that needed to be said that night. The rest would be the rest. Long and difficult
Meditations.
and worth every complicated day of it.
Oh,
7 months later, the office on
Thank you.
41 had a new nameplate. It said
Thank
S.
you.
Marsh, Director of Financial
I truly
Compliance.
don't know what to say.
She had negotiated the
means so
title
much
and
to me.
compensation in a 30-minute meeting during which she had been entirely calm and entirely specific about everything she required. The COO had looked at Roman afterward
you might
and
be right
said,
about this clause.
You hired her from records. Roman
And
had
this is
said
why we
she
make a good
hired
team.
herself. She had a desk by the east window, morning light every day, a Kindle on the corner of the desk with 3 books on it, Meditations,
I never thought I'd
Epictetus,
feel this way again.
and a third one Paula had recommended, Women Who Run with the Wolves,
Neither did I.
which she was reading slowly on Tuesday evenings over tea. Because Paula was having a better winter, and her son had visited from Seattle, and she had
I
opinions
wouldn't
about
have
the
it any
third
other
chapter
way.
that were extremely strong
Me neither.
and required extensive discussion.
We made it.
Roman came to the compliance floor on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He always knocked. He waited to be waved in, and she always waved him in. They had coffee and talked about the things that needed talking about, some of which were professional and some of which were not.
I told you
They
I'd
had
take
argued
care of it.
twice and had one conversation
I know you would.
that was genuinely hard
I
and had
always
come
trust
through
you.
all of it more clearly than they had entered it. She had learned that trusting someone is not a single decision. It is a decision you make again every morning. She made
Thank
it
you.
every morning.
This
She
means
believed
the
he
world.
did too. One morning in March, she found a book on her desk. First edition, Meditations, the Gregory Hayes translation. The one with the gray cover and the careful introduction. A note inside in his handwriting. The obstacle is the way. You already knew that. But now you have a better copy. She read the note twice. She set it down. She looked at the city in the morning light and felt
Together.
something she had been not naming
Always.
for a long time, because naming things makes them real, and real things can be lost. She named it. It was gratitude. The specific, quiet, earned gratitude of a woman who had spent 2 years making herself invisible and had finally, carefully, let herself be seen.
Good morning.
Not by everyone. Not in the loud, public way that other people needed to
I
feel
trust
real.
you.
But by the
Thank
one
you.
person who had pressed
The
his
feeling
ear
is
to a
mutual.
glass wall at 11 at night
I think
and
this
heard her
indicates we
taking
found
care
our
of
common
someone
ground.
else,
Perhaps.
and had decided,
It certainly feels
without
like we're on
being
the same
asked,
page.
that someone should take care of her.
The audit results
here
are
is
clear.
what all
Our
of it
compliance rate has
teaches.
increased by 12%.
Here is the thing
Good.
I
What's the
need
plan
you
for
to
next
hear
quarter?
before
We need to
this
focus
story
on streamlining
closes.
the approval process further.
There is a kind of strength
Understanding the
that the world
nuances of
does not
compliance
celebrate.
risk is crucial
It
for
does
our
not
continued
announce
success.
itself. It does
Focus
not
on the
raise
core
its hand in the
principles.
meeting or demand the corner office,
Our
or make
strategy
sure
must
that everyone in the
prioritize
room
long-term
knows what
stability
it
over
has
short-term
survived.
gains. A
It gets up
principle
at
I know we all
6:15 and
understand.
makes coffee and rides the train and does the work and comes home and checks on the neighbor upstairs and keeps the books it finds comfort in and keeps going,
If you could just sign off on
Quietly.
the compliance review.
completely,
I'll take a look at it right away.
without an audience. The world calls this kind of strength manageable. It calls it convenient. It overlooks it the same way it overlooks the woman who does the work that no one credits, in the corner where no one thinks to look. But here is what the world misunderstands. Invisible is not the same as powerless. The woman no one is
Excellent.
watching
Now
is the
everything is in
woman who
order.
notices everything. And the Stoics, the ones Selene kept in her desk drawer and read on lunch breaks alone, they knew this. They called it amor fati,
I am so incredibly
The love of
grateful for
fate.
this.
not the acceptance
It
of
means
suffering.
the world.
The recognition that every year of being overlooked, every betrayal that made you trust less, every morning you got up and kept going when keeping going cost
You look
something.
even more beautiful than I
Every
remember.
single one of those things was shaping the exact
You came
person
back.
who would walk
Of
into the
course.
right room at the right moment and notice something in 4 seconds that 9 months of professional
morning.
intelligence had missed.
Morning.
You were not wasting those years. You were becoming
Thank
the
you.
person who could survive
This is
what
exactly
came
what I
next.
needed.
Do not make yourself small to
I
survive
think you're
rooms
right.
that are too
Let's flag
loud
this
for who
section.
you are.
Excellent.
The
That's
right
the
room
key.
exists.
We make a
And
great
when the
team.
right person
We
finally
do.
looks at you, not because you performed enough, not because you asked loudly enough, but simply because they were
I
finally
always
paying
loved
attention,
these tea evenings together.
let them look.
Me too.
Not because
Thank
you
for
need to be
everything.
seen to matter.
It's been my pleasure.
You have always mattered.
I told her exactly
because
what
you
I
deserve
thought,
to be
and
known.
she had the nerve to argue.
And that,
You
in
did
the end,
not.
is the
Oh,
whole
that's
story.
hilarious.
I
So the
found
story
this
has come
section
to a
on
close.
wild women so
And if
powerful.
you are still here
What do you
with me
think?
right now,
It's really
I
resonated
want you to know
with me
something.
too.
You know, it's just one
the
of those
fact
things you
that
have
you
to
stayed
laugh at.
until this very moment tells me that somewhere in Selene's
I know
journey,
exactly what you mean.
something touched you.
I had a
Maybe
lovely
it was the
time.
way
Thank
she
you
kept
so
going
much.
in silence when nobody was
Drive
watching.
safe. I will. Take
Maybe
care.
it was the
You
2
too.
years she spent making herself invisible just to feel safe. Or maybe it was the moment she finally allowed herself to be seen.
Good morning. I'm ready for the meeting.
Not because she performed
I have
enough,
considered everything carefully.
Not because she
and
begged
while
for
I
it,
understand,
but
the
simply
parameters
because
we
she
agreed
chose
upon
to stop
must be
disappearing.
respected.
Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action
We have a
advances
problem.
action.
I
What stands in the
understand.
way becomes the way."
I needed you to hear
And that is exactly
I
what
did.
Selena lived.
And I'm
Every
here now.
betrayal, every lonely morning, every year of being overlooked, none of it was wasted. It was all building the person strong enough to walk through that door on the other side. So if you have been shrinking yourself lately, if you have been making yourself smaller just to survive a room that was never built for you, I hope this story reminded you of something true. You do not have to earn the right to be known.
I wouldn't
You
have
already
it any other
deserve
way.
it.
Me
If
neither.
this story moved you even a little,
Just the two of us.
please hit that like button right now.
Forever.
Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. and subscribe so you never miss the next one. We will see you in the next story. This story is a work of original fiction created for entertainment and emotional storytelling purposes. All characters, including Selene Marsh, Roman Ashford, Derek Cole, and all others appearing in this narrative, are entirely fictional and do not represent any real individuals, living or deceased. The events, organizations, locations
Thank
as
you, all of
depicted in
you.
narrative context,
It means the
and
world to
situations
me.
portrayed are products of creative imagination and are not intended to represent
take this
or
role.
replicate real
I have
events,
to go.
real
I know.
companies,
I'll miss
or
you.
real criminal
Goodbye.
activity of any kind.
I
The
never
Stoic
thought I'd find
philosophy
this here.
references, including quotations
it,
attributed to
I'm
Marcus
not letting
Aurelius
go.
and Epictetus, are drawn from widely available historical texts and used solely for inspirational and narrative purposes. This channel produces cinematic fiction designed to entertain, inspire emotional reflection, and share meaningful life lessons through storytelling. No part of this content should be interpreted as factual reporting, news, or documentation
And
of
that's
real
why
events.
I think it's
We
absolutely
believe in
essential
honest,
to do it
transparent
this way.
storytelling.
Oh, you always have the
And we are
strongest
grateful for every
opinions.
single one of you
Well,
who
someone
chooses
has
to
to be
spend your time
right.
with us.